Learning Mandarin is one of the best decisions you can make, and today we're going to talk about why. The funny thing is, even though Mandarin has over 1 billion native speakers in the world, the most popular Asian languages to learn are Japanese and Korean, according to stats on Duolingo. Which makes sense. They have anime, they have K-pop, they have K-dramas. But what about Chinese learners? Usually, the people who decide to learn Chinese want to reconnect with their family culture. So when people who don't have ties to Chinese ask me why they should study Chinese, I'm always a little bit stumped. And this is an issue because one of the main reasons why people quit learning a language is because they no longer have any motivation. And other than Mandarin being a vessel to bring you into the world of work, there aren't many other perks that I'm hearing about. For many of us, we're not work primed. We care about the culture, the people, the media. So where is that? And to be honest, for a long time, my main reason to learn Mandarin was to connect with my cultural heritage. I wanted to be part of them. I wanted to belong. But after going to China, I realized I'll never be Chinese enough to be fully accepted. And that took a big hit on my motivation to learn Chinese. So I faced this exact question. If my motivation is no longer to identify as fully Chinese or for work prospects necessarily, what is the point of trying so hard learning the most complicated language in the world? So, if you're like me facing this question, here are 4 reasons why I think learning Chinese is worth it. Many of you might be drawn to China for its mountains, its futuristic cityscapes, or even their historic sites. By the way, China has one of the richest histories in the world. But sadly, unlike a lot of other countries, China is pretty gatekept. Not just because of the grueling visa application, but as soon as you step into China, you're pretty much alone. With foreign apps all blocked, an unstable VPN, you're effectively thrown into a whole new country with nothing to latch onto. You may not even be able to access Google Translate, which is why learning Mandarin, even the basics, is necessary for a good and satisfying trip. Of course, there are many people willing to help you, but there will also be a few who do try and take advantage of you being a foreigner, especially when you go into the more remote areas of China. And this is where talking to an actual local or someone else who can help you is very, very important. We personally had this experience in one of the more remote areas of China. Scams are everywhere and a lot of foreigners may fall for it. You'll find a lot of people trying to tempt you into their cars and vans with exorbitant prices simply because there's no taxi service there. When you can't ask the local people about bus or coach services or call your hotel for pickup, that's when desperation starts to kick in. I'm planning on making a whole video on this, especially what we faced in Jiuzhaigou. But in cases like this, it is always best to do your research beforehand, learn some basic phrases so you can ask the locals, and yeah, just be careful out there. But in order to start speaking, this is where Canto Tomando, the sponsor of today's video, comes in. The best part is, you get a free guide. Because yeah, you might download a book or buy some textbooks, but if you're traveling soon, we want a method that gets you quick and reliable results. And Canto Tomando helps Cantonese speakers learn fluent Mandarin in just 90 days using this method. So, if you're a Cantonese speaker trying to learn Mandarin, listen closely.
You speak Cantonese. You should not be learning in the same way, at the same pace as Craig. Now, the way we've solved that problem for some of our Cantonese clients in the past is by showing them how to leverage their existing Cantonese to help them learn Mandarin faster. And what that means for you is that by using your Cantonese to help you learn Mandarin, it's going to really accelerate your learning curve so you can start speaking Mandarin almost immediately while improving your Cantonese.
Cantonese and Mandarin grammar are very similar. So instead of trying to learn Mandarin from English, it actually makes more sense to learn Mandarin from a more similar language like Cantonese. Unlike some generic course, these lessons are tailor-made to suit actual pain points of Cantonese speakers. For example, tones, which is a big thing a lot of Cantonese speakers struggle with. I was brought up in a Cantonese household, and while I can speak basic Cantonese, my vocab, reading and writing skills are lacking. But why should I trust Canto Tomando's method over textbooks and apps? Canto Tomando uses the copy-paste method, which is based on the idea of patterns, and that is what our brain loves. This is through the surplus of example sentences that you get that helps you start thinking in Chinese.
Sek means to eat, sek gan means eating. In Mandarin, change your gan for action in progress to a zai, then move it before the verb. That's it.
So instead of rote memorization methods like flashcards, this method focuses on building blocks, which makes our learning much more flexible. But we know that everyone has different skill levels. If you get the free guide, you can also sign up for a personalized one-to-one call with a coach who can assess your Cantonese level directly and give you a personalized roadmap. So if you're a Cantonese speaker, whether you're very basic or you've been learning it your whole life, check out the link below to get your free guide. Thank you to Canto Tomando for sponsoring today's video. Now, culture is a massive reason for Japanese and Korean learners. But I don't hear a lot about Chinese media. Other than the food and the sights that you can only authentically get if you travel to China, people don't really talk about the media. And the media is the thing that makes culture accessible, regardless of where you are in the world. We had Kung Fu Panda that popped off, and Shang-Chi, but they are all American. There's no Chinese version of K-pop or anime or K-drama, right? I'm telling y'all, Chinese media is being sat on. I'll always love anime, but the production quality in Chinese donghua is insane. Hot guys? You got it. Hot guys liking other hot guys. Boom, right here. And what about games? The most famous games that you probably play are Chinese, I think. Probably most likely. Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, even Valorant is owned by a Chinese company, Tencent. And yo, I know the guys you've been talking to at night. They're Chinese too. And for the people who are into K-dramas instead, here are some top C dramas that you can give a shot. But man, why should I learn Chinese if I've got English sub right here? I think that's the wrong question to ask. Why are you settling for second best? But especially if you're into other Asian culture, there is bound to be some golden Chinese media that tickles your fancy. There is no doubt that China is one of the fastest developing countries in the world, and that means there are a lot of opportunities there. In the UK, one building can take up to 6 years for it to be built, and then it will face some issue that will cause construction to be put on hold. In China, I mean, just look at Chongqing's train station, which was built in just 3 years. Plus, if you take into account how Chongqing is a literal mountainous city, this feat is insane. In Shanghai too, there are many redevelopment projects, where now they have loads of bougie shops and even a fancy eco-labs that you can visit. Coming from the UK, I thought Canary Wharf was impressive until I saw these glass tall-rise buildings literally everywhere. So it does seem that China is one of the most exciting places to be innovating in right now. But that doesn't mean China is all glamour. When talking to some Didi drivers while I was in China, the drivers did mention how there was still a high unemployment rate for new graduates. People are also slowly turning away from family life and instead focusing on work. And so while China's economic output is something to be following closely these days, it does seem like the global economic situation, regardless of where you are, is still pretty tough right now. And I don't want to make the promise that you'll have so many opportunities when you just go to China. Hey, but at least you'd have a good life surrounded by mountains and the countryside, right? Retirement seems pretty good. Jiuzhaigou literally has the bluest lakes I've ever seen. Like, no joke, these photos were unedited. Zhangjiajie has colossal mountains and also houses Tianmen Mountain, where you're literally walking in the clouds. So if you ever are facing a creative block, which I was, go there and you shall be healed. And if you were swayed by the scenery, then you are one step closer to living there if you learn the language. But at the end of the day, why do we have languages in the first place? I think it's about connection. It's about meeting new people, sharing new ideas, and just being open-minded. And even if you just decide to learn a little bit of someone else's language, it will make their day. I mean, a lot of popular polyglot YouTubers nowadays are posting videos just having basic conversations in a myriad of languages, which is cool. But even then, you can see how happy people are just knowing that someone out there is learning their language. Okay, but let's be honest, learning a language isn't just about flexing online. It can help people in the real life too. Just last week, I was on a bus and minding my own business on my phone when a Chinese woman tapped me on the shoulder and she asked me how to get to a hospital. My Chinese low-key struggled when I was trying to explain that the bus was on a diversion, but I was able to get the point across. But just these small things you can do with just the basics of another language, doesn't that make the struggle worth it? Looking back at my trip to China, I can also say that the conversations I had were one of the best aspects of the trip. It was these conversations which enriched my knowledge of the culture and their history. And these conversations really opened my eyes to how people went about their life and their outlook on the world. We get so caught up in our own ideas sometimes, especially when online can seem like such an echo chamber, that I think we're forgetting at the other end of the network is a person. Maybe things are getting mistranslated online, or we just fail to understand the other person's perspective, their different upbringings and circumstances. And sadly, we just forget about connection. And while translation devices and tech are being made to help us understand each other better, I think there will always be a barrier if we don't try and learn the language ourselves. So just go for it. There are over 1 billion people waiting to connect with you in Mandarin. 加油! I wish you all the best in your language journey. Let me know how it's going in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.